Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar. Delighted to have you with us, and today we're going to look at digitalisation at scale and how we move beyond pilots. This is a subject that's dear to my heart because we've been involved in it, me personally for over 20 years and us as Eigen for the last 13 years. It's not an easy subject, so I want to just describe the situation at first and say that this is not the answer to everything. We can't tackle the entire problem here, but we are going to look at one aspect of it. So those of you familiar with digital projects will know that this is a complex thing. What I'm going to talk about is where Eigen helps, and we're going to look at a case study for where we've moved from a pilot project into production and the aspects that made it easy and faster. The scaling digital projects is a big and multifaceted challenge. There's a term that I want to introduce that describes one of the reasons why it's so difficult to move, and that's the term viscosity. Viscosity is a property of a fluid. It's a measure of how resistant that fluid is to changing shape. Organizations have a viscosity. The faster you try to change an organization, the more effort it will require. And there's a limit. If you try to go too fast, you'll actually explode. Either the organization will break or the thing that you're using to stir it will snap. What causes that organizational viscosity? Well, there's lots of different things. It can be the culture within the organization, the complexity of the organization. It can be differences either between sites and assets or in data formats and technology and standards. It can be gaps in information. It can be procurement strategies, what's incentivized. You could have department goals versus company-wide goals. Your IT infrastructure might be a cause of viscosity. Is it legacy, old laptops, insufficient bandwidth? There may be legislation and regulation that you have to work within, for example, pharmaceuticals that can slow you down. So we're going to take the starting point today as a situation where you've done a pilot and you've proven the business value and that the technology works. So moving forward to scale it, you do actually want to change the shape of the organization. So the objective here isn't to pass through the fluid or the organization with as little resistance as possible and come out the other side. We do actually want to change its shape. We want to mix it up a bit and apply some energy to it. So we're going to have to deal with the issue of viscosity. So the question is, how do we minimize the effect of organizational viscosity? Well, there's 4 ways that you can reduce the viscosity in a fluid, and I'm going to go through these and draw parallels then with an organization. You can heat a fluid up, you can add a solvent to it, you can move through it slowly. The viscosity then doesn't reduce, but its effect, the energy required, is less. Or you can use a shape with low drag. Again, this is minimizing the effects of the viscosity rather than changing it. If you heat the fluid up, well, an external energy source like the recent coronavirus outbreak, that will cause rapid change, but you're not always in control of them. You can warm people up within the organization to change by the way you present it, and that's definitely a good thing to do. You can add a solvent. So things like positive marketing campaigns and hiring dynamic change agents act within the organization to reduce the viscosity. They can help change the culture, which is one of the agents of viscosity. You can move through it slowly. This is a default. If you don't do any of the other things, that's what you'll end up doing. Or you can use a shape with low drag. So this is where it gets interesting. Low drag is something that we can affect, and that's what I want to look at now going forward. So how can you be low drag within your organization? In delivering a digital project, what equates to low drag? The first aspect is you can be low friction or low resistance. So you need to deliver something that people really want, and you need to make sure it works. People don't like their lives getting harder. So if you deliver something that makes their life better, they're very keen to adopt it. And it needs to work first time because people are often suspicious of change. You want to be low profile. You want to have a smaller frontal area as possible. So keeping the scope small and going step by step definitely helps. Take a small thing and do it well is much better than trying to take a big thing and spend a lot of time and do it all at once and possibly fail. You need to reduce the complexity where possible. Complexity is, keep it simple, stupid is the classic phrase. Complexity starts to cause problems and delays. So if you can get rid of it, do wherever possible. Avoiding turbulence. Turbulence absorbs energy in fluids. So causing turbulence in an organization has the same effect. It gets harder, it absorbs more and more of your energy in trying to move forward. So if you can make sure people are positive and on side and want what's coming, you'll get much less turbulence. There's always internal politics, and I'm not going to go into that here. But the process and the outcomes of the digital project you're delivering needs to be pleasant. They need to be nice to use and make people's lives better. And you need to keep things warm. You need to deliver as quickly as possible, and you need to keep your promises and keep people informed. So how does Eigen help in this area? Well, we have the Ingenuity platform, which is the off-the-shelf solution for digitization of industrial operations. It's containerized and it's cloud-based, so it deploys quickly and easily. It's fully scripted, so the actual install is within an hour. It's low code. We've got hundreds of standard features and components that let you work with and display data from your existing systems. It's self-service, so users can create their own content and set up notifications. And there's no lock-in. Your data stays in your systems. So how does this then equate to the ways to achieve low drag? Well, in terms of low friction, it's off the shelf and it's already proven. The technology works, so you only need to prove the value in your business. The costs stay low as well. It's licensed by user and not by asset. So if you have the same teams working across assets, the costs don't scale by asset. And there's no lock-in, so your data stays in your own systems. It's low profile. It's got a small frontal area because it works from day one. You can connect it to just one system if you want to and add systems over time. It's a platform architecture, so it allows you to go step by step. It avoids causing turbulence because lots of people already like it. It's had 13 years of development behind it. It's been designed by engineers for engineers. So it's designed to do the jobs that need to be done in your environment. We have a track record of delivering projects in real life. And how do we keep things warm? Well, there's lots of out-of-the-box components that let you deliver projects quickly. So let's take a look at an example of where we've moved from a pilot project into production. The pilot, to keep it low profile and low friction, it was initially a small scope. This was a pilot project that installed Ingenuity and connected it to a data historian, in this case AspenTech's IP21, using our out-of-the-box IP21 data connector. We just had 10 users given access initially. We gave them a training session and then they started creating their own content immediately. A set of dashboards were defined to demonstrate the capabilities of the system. These were curated dashboards with quality assured content and a company branding and style. There were some aspects of more advanced workflows that were tested to determine if the system could deliver the future functionality, which it could. So at that point, the pilot was a success. And it's key to know that a pilot is different from a proof of concept. A pilot proves the value. A proof of concept seeks to prove the technology. So with a pilot, the technology should already be proven. Some of the components that we have in the platform that enable this low friction were the fact it's fully user configurable. Users can immediately start making their own content using existing things like the built-in KPI templates. We have a very powerful charting and trending tool, so users can make either on-the-fly trends or create pages with trends in. We have out-of-the-box data connectors to most of the standard systems in industrial companies, from real-time historians to relational database to open source systems like Elastic, Postgres, Influx. We have data entry tools that allow you to replace spreadsheets and enter data instead straight into the system and work with it. We also have a built-in calculation engine that allows you to create a virtual time series. This is a really important factor in closing the gap between the source data and what users want to do with it. Very often, the format of the source data isn't sufficient for doing the work that needs to be done. And you might need to do something simple like convert the units to something maybe more complicated like totalizing, taking averages, converting things to virtual signals. So you have two flow meters from a pump depending on if it's high rate, low rate. The calculation engine in the platform can do all of those things, so it let the users complete the whole workflow. They didn't have to go outside the platform. So once the pilot was done, we're ready to scale up the user base. So because the platform is already enterprise ready and the data sources are already in use, the code is already robust and ready to go. It's cloud-based and it's a web app. So we didn't have to do any local installs. It's just a case of the users accessing the web URL and then giving them access. So we just literally need to open it up to more users. There's then a bit of marketing that goes around that and some training, but we didn't have to rewrite some prototype code in order to make it production ready. It wasn't the case of seeing something working and then being disappointed because it was now going to take 6 months or 2 years to convert this into a business ready system. It's all ready to go from day one. We then put in place a test system, which is about the organization to support it. So you can go through a more formal process for any updates, but that's just administrative. It's just installing another version of it. And then there's training for users. Once the system was installed and in use, people started to see what was possible. So we then got requests for new features and we were able to rapidly deploy these. So this is where the concept of low resistance comes in. This wasn't something being pushed from the center, it was a pull from the users because they now understood how things worked and were starting to think themselves of what might be possible. So we got demand to replace a legacy system. This was a custom desktop application written nearly 2 decades ago. So it ran on individual people's desktops. We already had 82% of the interfaces and they're called APIs in the platform. So in order to build the new system, we'd already done over 4/5 of the work. The data model was also already there. We just had to make a few minor changes and we had lots of the UI components already in place. So to replace this custom app, actually, it was just 20% of the effort as it might otherwise have been. It meant we could roll it out very quickly. So then we're in a position to roll out to other assets. There's a warm response now, so the viscosity is reduced because people have seen the value on the first asset and now they're actually asking for it. Because it's cloud-based, again, there's nothing to install. It was easy to connect up additional data sources and give other users access to it. So the scale up is already ahead of schedule. We're already on the second asset after just 6 weeks. So to summarize then, the Ingenuity platform from Eigen was our way of reducing the organizational viscosity and helping the rapid scaling and rollout of digital technologies. It's low friction because it was containerized and cloud-based, so it's fast and easy to deploy. It's low turbulence because it's well liked by the users. It's got lots of standard features and components that let you work with data from your existing data sources. It's low resistance because there's no lock-in, so your data stays in your systems. And it's low profile because it connects to existing data sources. There's minimal setup to do. You're up and running from day one. And it stays hot because you can rapidly develop new features and custom apps if they're required. The users have a short gap between requesting something and then getting it in their hands to use. Okay, now we're doing perfectly on timing. So has anyone got any questions on this?
So there's a couple in the chat. The first is, what if my data is in Excel files? How would you approach a pilot and then scale up afterwards?
That's a great question. And that is a very common challenge, actually, that when I say existing systems, actually some of those systems are spreadsheets. So one of the things we are able to do is connect to spreadsheets and import that data into a time series database so that users can use it just like any other data source. We have the interfaces or robots that can process spreadsheets and make them as part of the system, and then we can watch those spreadsheets, and if they're updated, we synchronize the changes into the system. So users can continue to work with the spreadsheets if they want. They don't have to leave their old ways behind, and actually that reminds me of another good reason why it's low friction and low turbulence, because you're not asking the users to completely learn a new way of working. Often information in an organization is generated, or certain types of information are generated by a few people, each person being responsible for their own domain, but it's consumed by a lot of other people. So if you can let the generators of information stick with their existing systems and just change the way that information is consumed, it's much easier for people to adopt new ways of working, because actually for the few people that need to generate it, you don't change their life. If anything, you might make their life better because they've got less overhead to do emailing spreadsheets out or something. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. It
Amazing.
says,
And there's another one in the chat here, Murray. It says, can you comment on the response of your clients to the scale up of Eigen Ingenuity? If you can, be specific and with examples, please.
okay, let me just reread that question. Can you comment on the response of your clients to the scale of it? All right. Okay, it's been very positive. What we've seen is users in one domain use it and then get familiar with it and like it, and very quickly all the users in that domain like it. Then other domains look across and see what the first domain's doing, and it starts to permeate there. So it goes in, I guess, bursts. Right, so the scale up itself worked, like I said, in the user, in the scale up of users, where it's just a case of adding more users to it. The platform is designed already for thousands of users, so the ability to scale is there. Because specific examples of the scale up, well, in our customers, 2 of them have licenses for several hundred users already. The third customer in the Norwegian continental shelf is on that trajectory and is expecting a set number of users as they add more assets. I guess, could you ask any more in the question on specifically what aspect you're thinking of? Are you thinking of the infrastructure or the user adoption or the functionality they built? In terms of the infrastructure, that was fairly straightforward because it was an internal cloud, scaled pretty easily. I think one of the challenges to the scaling is the rate of training that you can do. So it's almost like the scaling goes at the speed of training of people. So helping people to understand all the different functions, because actually people take the system on for one use without realizing that it has all these other uses. So they're very happy using it for the one thing, but not knowing there's all these other features. Okay, so how it moved from one domain to the other, for example. So I guess by domain here, one might be talking about discipline within an organization. So reliability and maintenance versus subsurface monitoring. So yeah, we have in one client, they use it primarily for reliability and maintenance. So it connects to maintenance systems. There's a lot of summaries of states of work, and so it's like topsides and equipment monitoring. They've built pages to analyze equipment performance. In another company, it's used for subsurface monitoring, much more real-time and subsurface data with some structured data from relational databases. It's all the tools are there in the system to do both. In another organization, they've made a portal for drilling data. So there, again, lots of different data sources. In this case, 16 data sources, none of which are real time. In fact, they're all various different systems of record. And the platform handles that. It's used by, I think, about 100 users visualize that, and it also has a mobile app. So yeah, the system was able to deal with that fine. We added another aspect to it for passing emails, so we were able to add some custom functionality at their request, and that's now part of the product as well. I hope that's okay. Question: can you comment on the scalability of the mobile app? Yes, the mobile app is extremely scalable. There's 3 mobile apps actually. There's 2 for production and 1 for drilling. So if I take the first 2 for production, the architecture of the mobile app is written to be extremely low bandwidth and extremely low battery. It's a push only of data. So it's both secure because there's no inbound connections, and it's very lightweight. So it means you can support many users on the device. The back end has got special caching and modules in it that prevent multiple requests to source data. So if many people want to see the same value, it's only ever requested once from the source data. So it protects your source data sources from load. The second mobile app is for search. It's remote access to your data model basically, and everything connected to it. Again, that scales because it only makes a connection when you search, and the search is very lightweight. The third is the drilling application that leverages the smart components called Smart Dash or Smart Caching that protect the data sources. So again, it's designed for supporting multiple users all viewing the same data. They're written in both iOS and Android. They're deployed through the App Store and Google Play, although you'd actually often get them through an enterprise device management system. They'd be deployed there. So yeah, they're built to tie in with enterprise management of stuff. So coming in January next year, we're going to be releasing Ingenuity 6. This is the 6th major release of our platform. So this is, we may have averaged a release every 2 years, I guess. We've gone up a version number. We've been going for just over 13 years. We're now on version 6. This has lots of new improvements under the hood. There's been some big low-level changes for speed. It builds on the latest version of all our cloud technology. It's fully Dockerized. It deploys in Azure Cloud. It's got new features with connectivity to Office 365 connectors. There's new data connectors. We're going to include a connector to Cognite data framework now in version 6. So yeah, look out for that in January. Any more questions? I hope that's answered the ones that there were.
So there aren't any more in the chats unless anybody's typing.
Great. Well, if anyone would like any more info, please feel free to contact us directly. There's contact details there, or you can email us at info@eigen.co. We'll be delighted to chat more. If you have any more thoughts on organizational viscosity, please do share them as well. That would be interesting to know. So thanks very much, and we'll see you at the next one, everyone. Cheers.